Okay, here's an excellent question by a fellow transplant recipient concerning sleep cycle and medications. Here's what he says. He said, I'm looking for experience and feedback on sleep cycle. When do you take your meds to have a minimal impact on staying awake at night? He adds to that, I was thinking to try to take my meds at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. What are your thoughts? Well, first of all, this is an excellent question. It's certainly one I have asked myself in the past, as well as I try to give the best answers I can, even like I'm doing now. And let me suggest to you that you do not change your meds to something as drastic as 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And that'll be for a few reasons. But for me, personally, the main reason would be if I had a bad night's sleep, I don't want to have to get up at 6 a.m. every day of my life to take medication. So I probably wouldn't adjust my meds back that far. Now, I'm a guy who for the past 9 years post-heart transplant, I've typically taken my meds at 9 and 9 with a few exceptions when I've made adjustments like you're thinking about making. But typically speaking, I would remain with the plan to take the majority of my meds at that 9 and 9 marker. And that means that you're going to keep things very, very consistent. Now, that might be 8 and 8, it might be 7 and 7. 10 and 10, who knows? But sticking with a 9 and 9 example, it is so important that things like Prograf, aka tacrolimus, and or mycophenolic acid or myfortic, it's extremely important that those medications, mainly those two, be kept at a very, very strict regimen. That's why they have suggested to you probably that you do take a cycle like an 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10 cycle, keeping them exactly 12 hours apart, because those levels are that which fluctuates the most easily. And you really, what happens when you take them, there's a little bit of a spike in the beginning, there's a level off point, and then there's kind of a drastic drop off at the end. That's how those two medications act within your body. And it's pretty important that you keep them at a very consistent time, not only 12 hours apart, but in addition to that, let me suggest that you leave them about wherever they are now, not go back so early, because say, for example, you're going in on Monday, you go in for 8 a.m. blood work. If you've taken drugs like Prograf, tacrolimus back at 6 p.m. the night before, your levels are going to be low by 8 p.m. the next morning, and they're going to register low. And if they register low when there's kind of a mistake there because of the timing, they may up your doses unnecessarily, and then you're going to pay the price for that. So I would suggest if you're doing a 9 and 9, leave those things alone, but I would think that it would be perfectly fine for you to adjust your prednisone levels to maybe something like a 9 and 6. And you say, well, Jim, that's not 12 hours apart. That's right. But prednisone is not nearly as sensitive to those time fluctuations as the medications I suggested earlier. It's one of those medications that as long as you've got the right level in your system overall, because it doesn't spike as quickly, you're going to do pretty well. And this tremendously can impact you in the nighttime by backing it up to 6, as you've already suggested and assumed, because if you can get those in by 6, then maybe you'll have a chance in this world of getting asleep by, say, 9 or 10 o'clock. Because for my experience, at least, prednisone has the biggest impact as far as tremors, as far as, just uneasiness and the lack of being able to settle or relax for about the first 2 to 3 hours. So if you take it at 6 p.m., yeah, you might be good to go by 9 or 10. That is right. But it is not so important that I would change all of my medications to that regimen. I would probably leave whatever else I'm taking as is, and then just change the prednisone, taking that 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever, and then that 6 p.m. in the evening will work well. It won't make your medication levels fluctuate much with the prednisone. As a matter of fact, they don't really even check that. But things like Prograf that they do monitor, you don't want to have those spikes in there, particularly on clinic day when they might detect that and try to make some adjustment that's just not necessary. So go ahead and sit down with your team, talk with your coordinator. Be sure to run this by them. But I would think the best option is whatever time you're taking now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Leave things as they are and just simply adjust that evening dose of prednisone back. It shouldn't affect your levels very much, and you should get maximum benefit in that and good blood work every time. At least that's our hope. Thank you so much for this wonderful question. I think you're not only helping yourself, you're reminding me of these important facts and perhaps helping others. So I would encourage you all, please, even you, stay stronger, my friend.